Hey. This is another episode of Housewives Rewind. I'm Elle Murasaki. You know, normally we talk about the most recent episode of whatever Housewives episode is on Sunday and on Tuesday, but this week the Super Bowl was on, or the Rihanna concert was on. So we're going to actually rewind it back and talk about all the stuff that you missed on social media with the one and only Mark from Pink Pop Box. So let's jump into that. Hey guys, I'm Elle Murasaki, and we are back for another episode of Housewives Rewind. We have the one and only Mark from Pink Pop Box. If you are not following them on social media in general, you are missing out. Earlier this week, Mark broke a story about what really happened to Heather's eye. So since we don't have an episode of Housewives tonight, we're going to jump into that. We are going to talk about all things Erika Jayne and the LA Times article, and then just a few other Housewives things. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. And hello, Mark. How are you?
I am just wonderful. Elle, this is an honor. Thank you.
Oh my God. No, it's an honor to have you here. We normally do these conversations. If you don't know, I met Mark over on Bold, Black and Addicted to Bravo. Tongue-tied.
That is correct.
I met Mark over on Bold, Black and Addicted to Bravo. They do panels over there, and we were on the Lisa Rinna panel, if I'm not mistaken, first. And yeah. I just fell in love with your take and your opinion, and I said, everybody needs to hear you.
Oh, thank you.
Let's get into all things Heather Gay. You broke the story over there about what really happened to her black eye, as well as you spoke to her sister. So give us the rundown on all the goings-ons of Salt Lake City.
Oh my goodness. Well, first and foremost, Heather Gay was at a Bad Mormon book signing. And lo and behold, she goes, "You're not here to talk about the book. You're here to talk about my eye. Do you want to know what happened to my black eye?"
And then the whole crowd said, yes, like, finally tell us.
And she said, "I hit my eye on a cabinet that was above the sink. And I may have done it more than once. And I couldn't talk about it because we signed a non-disclosure, non-tarnished brand against Airbnb, and that's why I couldn't speak about it. And that's why we gaslit the entirety of the last half of Salt Lake City to letting people think that she got injured by another party." That's her current story.
Thank you for saying that, current, because we've had a few. We've insinuated that the girls might have done it. We've insinuated that she was jumped, but where I guess I'm questioning is, how would it be tarnishing to Airbnb to say that I was drunk, I didn't see the shelf, I hit my eye?
There's honestly no reason that she couldn't have just said, "I had a little accident," and just put it to bed with that. No, she wanted that attention, allegedly.
Yes.
And she just kept that rolling because she realized, the more I allude to things, the more attention I'm going to get. And the more attention I'm going to get is the more camera time I'm going to get. And so let's keep this going.
And that's what it felt like to me. It felt like a camera time grab because the Lisa Meredith story was so big, the Jen Shah of it all was so big that it kind of left Heather, Whitney, and then the friends of, in my opinion, kind of in the dark. It was like, nobody cares about what y'all got going on. Nobody cares about beauty labs or whatever. Like, let's talk about the hot mic and let's talk about Jen. And so this felt like I'm trying to meet my quota for whatever I signed on the contract.
Yep.
But
100%.
The part that got me when you broke the story about the book signing was, again, if it was about the non-disparaging clause towards Airbnb, how come at the reunion, when Andy asked her what happened and she responded, "I was just embarrassed, okay?" How come she didn't turn to Andy and go, "You know, why are we just getting this story?"
Well, you see, I think Andy realized by the time the reunion had hit, so many missteps had happened during this filming of the season. He had to sort of almost go along with that narrative of the eye, just because, think about it, because if he says, "You had an accident," why didn't you just say you had an accident? And the fact that he knew this the whole time, and Bravo sat on this accident for 6+ weeks to string us along into watching the show, that's even worse.
And strung us along. We also didn't know that there was an HR investigation until the end, which is something, and you and I have talked about this off of the show, that is kind of becoming a reoccurring theme for Bravo right now.
I mean, honestly, Ebony K. Williams even told us on her podcast, Holding Court with Ebony K. Williams, that Ramona Singer didn't have just one HR complaint. She had 4. And 2 were corroborated and 2 were not.
Yes.
We don't know the status of Heather Gay's human resources investigation, nor do we know what's going to be happening with Potomac, but that's another story.
That's another story. Before we get off of Salt Lake City, though, as I know you've been watching it from the beginning, as I have, what, as a viewer, not as a commentator, not as somebody who dabbles in this Bravo space, but just as a viewer, what do you want to see from Salt Lake next year? We know Mary is coming back in a friend of capacity. What would like make you beam from the inside? What would make you say like, now that's Salt Lake City?
Here's what honestly needs to happen. These 4 women can carry this show, but they have to get over all of themselves, not just a little bit. You've got to put the ego to the back. You've got to keep this train running forward in the right direction, because there's no Jen to detract from the show or drag it down. So there's no place to go but up.
Yes.
So the only thing I can say is that if they can keep the trajectory forward, keep the toxicity out, and somebody comes in with a ham barrel of apologies, because there's a lot that need to be given out and mean it, then I honestly think it can go forward pretty okay. It's going to be bumpy at first.
Now let's switch gears to the story that never ends in Beverly Hills, which is Tom Girardi had an accident, rolled his car down the hill. It was snowing. Her son had to go get her. Let's talk about the Erika Jayne of it all. Now,
oh my gosh.
If you're watching and you're not familiar, really quick recap. Erika Jayne was named in a lawsuit. I think this is a big deal because this is the first time that Erika is named. This is not Tom Girardi and then he's married to Erika Jayne. We are specifically talking about Erika Jayne in this lawsuit. And really quickly, this lawsuit says that Erika alleged that $800,000 was stolen from her or fraudulently charged to her Amex by her costume designer, who was making all of her costumes when we met her on Beverly Hills in the It's Expensive to Be Me of it all. Also, her music career died very quickly. Like, well, it was really like it was like it's here and then it's not.
Well, she was as a gay man, I will tell you, she was big in the clubs. I knew
really
who she
now.
Was. Oh yes, honey. Oh yeah. Oh honey, Pretty Mess was what was like a meeting call for gay men at 12 o'clock at night when that 12 o'clock bell rang. If it's yes, Queen. Oh, Pretty Mess. I was always looking for a Pretty Mess, but.
Oh, baby, I was Erika's first season. I was into Erika until Erika had an issue with Teddy. Now, far be it for me to defend Teddy because, like, indefensible. You know what I mean? But,
okay.
But also their issue, I suck at season numbers, but their issue when they went away and remember, I think Erika was on her period and she didn't want to stay at the room and Teddy took offense and all of that. That was when I stopped liking her.
That was season 8.
Season 8. And then that was also the same season they went to Amsterdam, right? When she just kind of blew up at Eileen. Don't you talk about my son.
Oh, no. That was season 6. That was the year before.
Oh, was that the year before? Okay.
Were people doing coke in your bathroom? That was Hong Kong.
And that was the end. When she sat at that table and she said, don't you talk about my son, and had a whole breakdown on Eileen, that was the end of me liking the new girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
But let's get into the LA Times article. So
that was a lot. I read it today. I understand exactly what's going on here.
Do you think, big question, and then we can go into it. Do you think that this is something that Bravo will be into and this will make them lean further into her? Or do you think that this is the beginning of the end for Erika Jayne, the housewife?
I honestly, I thought last season might be the end for her as a housewife, just because the fatigue of the Girardi Keese investigation is wearing thin with all the ladies. I'm sure they're sick of talking about it. I'm sure they're sick of dealing with it. Yes. And I'm sure that production and Evolution is also sick of dealing with it. It's starting to get complicated, as I thought it would be, as this drags on. More money moving parts do eventually start coming to the surface. And where Erika will never not be in a lawsuit the rest of her life. There is going to be somebody that's coming after her for money for the rest of her days.
Yes. Yes. And it's really interesting because for me, I'm a 90s baby. Erin Brockovich was a big movie. Like, that was big for me. So for her to come on the show and it be like, I'm married to the Erin Brockovich lawyer. Like, you know what I mean? That's a huge fall from grace. But I also feel like we're going to see another side of all of the women this season. Allegedly, Beverly Hills has went with a new production team.
They have. They got rid of last year's toxicity altogether.
But that production team, Kyle was in their pocket. And because Kyle allegedly was in their pocket, all of the Fox Force girls were protected. So allegedly, this season is supposed to be a Dorit takedown. Dorit, where do you get your money from? And I don't understand how we could sit up on this screen and watch a Dorit takedown season as it pertains to her money and also watch Erika Jayne. Like, I don't know how those storylines would blend.
Well, I'll be honest with you. After what Dorit endured last year, she's probably still heavily dealing with that, whether we think about it or not. No, that sort of a trauma does not leave easy. And to beat up on her just to create a storyline seems not only evil, but irreprehensible. And I would honestly, it's one of the main factors that would drive me from watching any further. And for me, and everybody knows I'm a Beverly Hillsologist, I know all the tea about those ladies and they know me. And I would never, ever expect any of them except one person to take a couple pot shots at Dorit because it's happened before.
Oh yes. And you know exactly who it is. I don't expect Sutton to stand by Dorit. I wouldn't expect Garcelle to stand by Dorit. I wouldn't expect Crystal to stand by Dorit. I feel like the only people who would stand by Dorit would be Kyle and Erika.
Yep.
And then Lisa, but she's not there anymore. So, like, praise God.
Well, I hear that little birdie says that somebody might pop up here and there at events. Not as a friend of, just happens to be invited.
Just happens to be in the room. Like, I invited Lisa.
I am quite sure we have not seen the last of of she who will not be named.
Before I let you go, let me ask you this. Jersey premiered this week. We got Rachel, who was born in 1991, making her the youngest housewife ever, at least to date. I don't know if the ladies on Housewife Legacy will be any younger, but to date, the youngest housewife ever. Do you think that this is Bravo, because we've been so vocal about not wanting to see older women act a fool? Do you think this is Bravo trying to scale down? And do you like it? Like, do you like them going younger?
Here's the thing, and this is going to be me telling you the truth. They're sick of the foolishness. These ladies in every series know the game. They've compared notes. They've told each other what to do. And what is happening is this production has had enough of the foolishness. And what they're doing is, do you think they brought Ebony K. Williams into New York just to bring her into New York as the first African-American housewife? No, they brought her in to get those women together and get them back to work. And guess what? She didn't mesh with a single one of them. And you want to know why? Because she threatened them and what they were used to, and they didn't know how to fight with her. So
And I
because
also don't think it was a fair fight for Ebony. Ebony came in
not.
as the first African-American housewife on New York in the heat of Black Lives Matter. Who are you voting for?
It was a rough time.
It was way uphill for her.
Now, on the flip side, we also had, at that same time, we had Tiffany Moon in Dallas.
Yes.
And what Tiffany had to endure on her show was unconscionable, but she did it. And the fact of the matter is that both shows were canceled as soon as those two instances happened. It is not a secret to me. So production has had enough of the foolishness. They're bringing in younger blood, because if these women can't get themselves together, they're going to be going out the door. Contracts will not be renewed. They're going to have to live on their podcasts and hide behind their Patreons, and we'll just call it a darn day.
But I think it's a very slippery slope. For me, at least, I think there's a fine line between younger housewives and now us watching The Hills. And as 30 plus, when you think about Bravo's demographic, right? I don't want to watch little kids. Like, I'm sorry. Like, what are you sad about? Like, girl, like, you in your 20s, go drop it low. Bring it up slow. I don't have time. I don't want to see it. You know what I'm saying? I want to see the businesses. I want to see the failures. Honestly, I want to see the failures. I want to see you overcome them. And then I want to see the drama, but I don't want to see that through a 25 through 30-year-old lens. I just don't. You could have been anywhere on the internet. You were here with us, and we appreciate that. This has been Housewives Rewind. I'm Elle Murasaki.